Welcome to the age of Aquarius. Yeah. The age of Aquarius. Sounds kind of odd because I grew up hearing the song. I don't know who it was by. I grew up in the 70s, so I don't know if the song is from the 70s, from the 60s. The age of Aquarius. I didn't quite understand what that was about. But this journey I started about 4 years ago, I am learning what that's about. Sorry if I'm huffing and puffing. Been going for a little hike here in the mountains. I come up here, and until you get a little bit further back, it's kind of grassy. And I come up here and walk barefoot, even in the winter, when it's not too cold, when there's not snow. So the age of Aquarius, kind of a curious thing. It's supposed to be the age of enlightenment. I'll tell you what, the past 4 years have been very enlightening on a not so personal level, but somewhat spiritual, somewhat personal, but on a knowing level. Learning about all the things that I thought were, that aren't. And the things that I never would have thought. Turns out they probably are. Been kind of a strange learning process. Who'd have thought? Who would have thought there was anything substantial to the age of Aquarius? But there's so much more than any of us really know or understand. Isn't this beautiful? This is one of my favorite spots to go back here. In that little canyon, sometimes I just go back there and sit. You can go around the corner to the right a little bit and sit. So people who hike by, not very many people go by, but when they do, they can't see you. So I was thinking about the age of Aquarius and what that means to me. I don't think I really know in full, but I've been learning a lot about myself. In case you're wondering where the name Reluctant Sojourner came from, reluctant because I don't think I would have chosen this journey willingly. Although now I realize it's all part of my process. My learning, my growing, my understanding. It's all part of that. And who wants to go through that crap? I never would have. Never would have chosen it. Well, I shouldn't say that, because I'm choosing it now. I grew up in a family that never talked about anything. They all talked about each other. I always felt like everyone knew something that I didn't. I kind of still feel that way. Felt that way my whole life. I don't know why. I'm the baby of a huge family. Maybe that's why. I think I'm going to go back down here and sit so I can actually talk and not be so winded. Y'all can hear me. So, I grew up in a big old Catholic family. Everything was hush-hush. You didn't talk about anything. You didn't talk back, although I was the exception. Maybe I had a couple sisters who were the exception as well. But you didn't talk back. Total guilt. Everything was about guilt. So the Catholic religion that I was exposed to, everything was about making you feel like you're doing something wrong. Like you shouldn't be thinking what you're thinking or feeling what you're feeling, doing what you're doing. That it all had to kind of be perfect and angelic. It's kind of how my mom, more so than my dad, expected us all to be like that. And if we weren't, we were made to feel guilty about everything. And hold on for a second here. Just want to be sure this is recording. Yeah. So I grew up extremely sheltered in a way because I was so afraid of going to hell. I was so afraid of telling anybody my thoughts because I wasn't sure what anybody else was feeling because my family didn't talk about anything. That's very manipulative. It's very narcissistic. It's very disempowering. I always felt helpless as a child. I felt helpless. I've always felt helpless. I know I'm not, because I can get it done if I need to. But there's a part of me that always goes back to this feeling helpless and feeling guilty, feeling like I shouldn't whatever. And so this age of Aquarius, I think it's going to be, now I'm speaking for me specifically, because I've been on this journey for about 4 years, questioning every last thing about myself. I think this age of Aquarius is going to allow me, not that I wasn't allowed before, spiritually, to dig deeper, to not necessarily believe everything I was told. I still struggle with that. I don't believe any of it anymore. Well, some of it to a degree, but I realize how much it's all just a big lie. But I think I'm going to be a little bit more free and easier on myself and allow myself to think that maybe not everything that I learned, everything I was taught or told, is exactly how it's supposed to be, or really even how it is, because it's not. And it's funny because it's been a very difficult 4 years because, like I said, I've come to find out that, it's like everything that I thought was, isn't. And it's kind of hard to get my footing. It's kind of hard to feel balanced. It's kind of difficult to feel like you've got a grip on which direction your life is going to go because of so many things that are uncertain. So many freedoms that are being taken from us that we took for granted. Not knowing what to expect. It's very difficult, especially for my sign. I've gotten into astrology quite a bit. My sign is an earth sign, and I really need to know. I've always needed to know. I've always had plan A through Z. I've always tried to think things through from beginning to end. I don't know how successful I was because I've been miserable most of my life. And I just realized in the past, well, I've been learning to realize that, but I just recently moved away from the city I used to live in, nowhere near it, to get away from my family mostly. But I'm living someplace, well, look, this is where I live now. I can come out here every single day and be with nature, just right knee deep in it. And I've realized how unhappy I was. I knew I was unhappy. My dad was always a very unhappy person. He was very depressed, very negative. Most of my siblings are the same. And of course, that's how I grew up, because that's all I knew. And when I moved here, I realized for the first time in my life, I was happy. I'm happy. For the first time in my life, I feel, I was taking my dog for a run, and I was driving along and just overcome with this, almost felt like pouring, champagne into a glass, and just all these bubbles are flowing, it's overflowing, all these bubbles are coming out, and it's tingly. And I thought, what is that? But it was me feeling happy. I never knew what it felt like. I've always been manipulated, controlled, my whole life by almost everybody who's ever been in my life. My family, some of my friends, my husband's. And now I'm taking control back, and I realize I can do it, and I don't feel guilty. I won't allow myself to feel guilty because I have given everything and never gotten back. And I don't think that's a valid reason for giving, because you want something back. But if you give your whole entire life and you never get back, you wind up empty, because you're filling everybody's cup and yours isn't being filled. And so living where I'm living right now, I'm filling my own cup. I am somewhere I finally want to be. I'm allowing myself to think for myself. It's been very difficult separating myself from my family and the way we've been taught to think and feel. It's been very difficult because I'm, I don't want to say how old I am, but way over middle-aged. And I never really was able to break free from the chains of my family. The control, the narcissistic behavior. Everybody was in everything for themselves, but made you feel like they were in it for you. And if you didn't appreciate that, boy, you really were ungrateful, because they were doing it for your benefit. My family liked to tell me what to do without really telling me what to do, manipulating me without my really knowing. And the last 4 years, I've it's taken me this long to understand what was happening. And I had to make the conscious decision to move away from them because I knew I would never be able to do this if I was in contact with them. And I'm not doing it to get even. I'm doing it because I know if I don't, I'm going to die. Physically, maybe, but emotionally, spiritually, maybe physically, I don't know. But I felt like it was already a slow death. I questioned every decision I made, and I would say, do I really feel that way? Or is that how I was conditioned to feel? And I really literally have to think about every decision I make. And am I making that as a child of a narcissistic family? Or am I really making that decision as an adult and because I've thought about it? And that's the decision I want to make. Been very difficult. It's been a huge learning curve. So I don't want to run this too long, but anyway, that is part of my journey that I'm on right now. That's just one facet of it. Like I said, I'm questioning everything in my life, but that is, I think, must be the first thing that's on my mind right now because it's the first thing that came out of my mouth. So thanks for listening, and I hope you will continue to go along with me on this journey. Subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you listening. Feedback, don't give negative feedback because I'll remove it because I don't need it anymore. I'm on this journey to be positive, and I will delete any negative comments because we're all here to uplift each other and help each other through our individual journeys, not to bring each other down. So if you don't want to leave a positive comment, don't leave one at all. Love to hear your positive comments and your experiences, your thoughts. Anyway, thanks again for listening. I am the Reluctant Sojourner, and until next time.